I'm going to show you how I would go about building a built top end for 4-cylinder turbocharged application. Let's go. We've got our head outside. We're gonna give it a final clean. We disassembled it from our pre-assembly test, just checking our piston to valve clearance. We got our bucket of soapy water, and then we're just gonna give our head a good cleaning. We've got our caps over here soaking to get rid of some of the carbon buildup that was on them. Might as well while we're at it. So let's get after some scrubbing. We're gonna take some of our soapy water. We're just gonna go to town on this guy with our baby brushes. Now we'll just give her a good final rinse and blow out these oil passages. Alright, we got that done. I'm nice and soaked. Let's take it to the air compressor and blow this thing out. Air compressor time. Let's get rid of some of this water. Woo, we got that all cleaned up. Now we're gonna clean up our caps while Shannon works on a dresser project. Look at that. Look how clean they are now. All right, now I feel good about that. We have our valve stem installation tool using the 5mm adapter there. I'll leave a link down in the description. Pretty inexpensive. Toss on one of our seals. And what you're looking for is that this little hat part, the seat which the springs will sit on. You just want to make sure it's flush with the bottom of this bore here. Retainer and one of our springs. We'll snap our retainer in. We'll install it. Wipe our valve on down just to make sure there's no dust and crap on it. Holding our spring. Some tiny little keepers. She's looking good. Check this out. And this is a perfect time before we proceed to just double check that all of our keepers are in there. Nice, I kind of went through, just make sure we don't have anything backwards, any of our locks, our keepers, whatever you want to call them. Okay, we got the head drilled, so that way our oil passage clearance is 1mm greater, and it was pretty simple. I was a little iffy about it, but it came out great. We got a lot more clearance for the oil to come through now. So we're good there. Now the next item up for bid that we have to address is the head gasket. I scanned and traced the stock head gasket, and the reason I'm having to shim it, this is a 0.043 shim, is A, to dial in my compression ratio, B, to get the piston to head clearance that we need. You guys saw in the previous video where I was kind of using this copper shim. Well, it was a little too thick, and I'm ditching the whole copper idea because it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to make copper work. So what I'm going to do is take the stock MLS gasket, which the whole thing's embossed to seal a little bit better, but the middle shim, there's 3 layers to this. You can see that there's this thin metal shim in between these 2 embossed sections, and a lot of the VW guys, what they end up doing to lower their compression ratio, in my case, I'm just trying to get the piston to head clearance and check. But what they'll do is they'll just take the gasket, split it apart, copper coat a shim like this, sandwich it in between the gasket, bolt it up, and you're good to go. So we're gonna copper coat this. We're going to take this apart, remove this shim in the middle. That shim is 6 thousandths, it's only 6 thousandths thin. This does compress to 2200s, 0.022. This is 0.043. Our pistons are sticking out of the hole 0.04, which might seem like it doesn't really make sense, but underneath the head here, we've got this little quench pad. It's not a whole lot of a quench pad, but when your piston goes up, you've got your quench area, which is gonna push your air fuel mixture towards your spark plug to help create a better burn, more efficient burn. And this lip right here, I measured it as 0.03. So if we take our stock head gasket that is 0.022 minus 6 thousandths from it because we were removing that middle shim, but we're adding the 43 shim, 0.043. You take away the fact that the piston is sticking up out of the hole by 0.04 and that we have that quench pad underneath the head, which is 0.03. So as you can see here, it says minimum clearance for steel rod is 0.04. We're right within that range, so we should be good. Ideally, the closer you get it to 0.04, it would be better. But in our case, the only other steel that I had to choose from, this is a cold rolled steel. The only other thickness that they had was 0.03, which would put us too close to that zone where there's no margin for error and you could have your piston collide into your cylinder head, which is bad. So what I'm gonna do quickly, just off camera before we bolt up our head, is when things are laser cut, it leaves like a little start point here. I don't know if you can see that where my thumb is at, but I just need to just kind of file that down a little bit just to smoothen it out so this doesn't become a hot spot in the combustion chamber, which could pre-ignite our air fuel mixture prematurely. So we'll take care of that. We'll clean this up. We'll clean the deck. Starting to get messy in here. We'll clean the surface of the cylinder head, coat this with copper spray, and then we'll bolt her up. And just in case you're wondering, once we punch in all of our values, we get a compression ratio of 10.2 to 1. Let's see if we can't clean this up with a little red Scotch-Brite. Yeah, there we go. There we go. She cleaned up pretty nicely with a little red Scotch-Brite. There was our rust area. Now let's degrease it and coat it. A little bit of acetone. She's nice and degreased. Permatex copper spray, spray a gasket. High temp sealant. Apparently what to use. And I'm taking this precaution just so make sure this thing seals up. All right, a couple light coats, they say. Well, the instructions say you only have to wait 30 seconds. Just shake this thing vigorously like a shake weight. All right, let's toss on another coat, and I think I'll give it just enough time for it to tack up before we go ahead and toss it on the engine. Let's go. Stop moving. While I'm letting this thing tack up, let's go ahead and degrease the block and the cylinder head, and we'll go ahead and secure her down. Actually, I need to take apart the old gaskets, so let's drill out those rivets too. Well, that was an adventure. I had to show this thing who's boss. All right, so this is the top. We'll not get these mixed up. We'll just kind of leave them like this for now, but here's the shim that we are replacing. And you can see how this thing is embossed to seal the head up. Wipe these things down. Okay, let's toss our bottom on real quick. Ooh, we're getting close, we're getting close. That looks about right to me. I'll toss this guy on. Take our tacky copper coated shim, put this on there. There we go. All right, one last look at the pistons. We'll see you later, pistons. May I never have to see your faces again. All right, she's ready for a cylinder head. Oh, feels good. You're probably asking, Matt, why didn't you toss the studs on and then slide the head over them? Well, these things fit really tight, and that's not even possible. Not without marring up these cylinder heads, you know, just creating some extra aluminum debris. And I'm putting these washers on first because some of these places it's a little bit of a tight fit, so others not. So I didn't use any assembly lube on the threads, and that's because we're just going to zip them in hand tight. If you overdo it with oil or assembly lube on those threads, they can weep out to your combustion chamber, kind of like how it did when we were mocking everything up, checking for piston head clearance. So I'd rather avoid that issue and have a gasket blow out, because I've got enough concerns on my mind about whether or not things will seal up. All right, let's zip them on in. See what I'm talking about? These things are tight. Oh, my drill time. Of course you would. Well, I guess we'll zip everything in manually. Kind of nice having power tools, but this will probably give me a better feel for it anyways. All right. We're gonna toss a good amount of lube on the base of these washers and these threads. ARP assembly lube, just so we get an accurate torque reading. Oh, like butter. All right, just need to do this to 9 more. Okay, these things need to be set to 85 foot-pounds. We're gonna do it in 3 stages. We'll start off with 30, then we'll do 60, and then 85, because I say so. All right, now our final of 85. Pretty tight, and that's why I'm pretty confident that this thing won't lift. But you never know, so we're gonna throw some power at this boy. All right, 85, let's do it. Okay, that was a workout. We're making some awesome progress. Now I'm gonna take some of this Lucas assembly lube and I'm just gonna put a good dab on the top of each of these valves, because this is where our buckets will ride on top of. We'll make sure there's no dry startup issues. Let me get my hair out of there. And while we're at it, we'll hit these cam lobes here, or not lobes, but where the cam's going to ride. We'll put a little here. Now we have to be careful with this face here. I'm gonna have to degrease it. So we can put a little sealer in there to keep the face of the cam from weeping out that way. Now we can drop our lifter buckets in, which these things have been soaking for a long time. This is day number 2 going on doing this, and they should just fall right on in. They've got this little groove here, which lines into the bore there. Drop right on in. These are some GM. Anytime you're putting some new cams in, you gotta have new lifters. We got some more hair in here. There we go. And don't force it down in there. Some of them might be a little snugger than others based on tolerances. Not a big deal, but don't force it in there. And the reason I'm not putting any assembly lube on this is because, as you can see, these lifters are just pouring oil out, and we've essentially are helping ourselves by putting some oil in there already. We're looking pretty good. Before I get too excited and carried away, I need to install the oil gallery seals for the cylinder head. If I don't do these now and start putting things on, I won't be able to put them on later. So let's install these. We'll use a little bit of thread sealer, and there's a total of 5. So let's do it. Now we can get to some of the fun stuff, like installing the camshaft. So I'm just gonna degrease this real quick because we have to put a little bit of silicone on this surface here. So we'll degrease it here, around there, over here. Get as much of that crap up as we can. We're nice and degreased. Put a little bit of sealer And I'm guessing, this is just a guess, that these are the oil return areas for the seals so they don't just leak out. So we're just going to make sure we just got a smidge thin, nice and thin. Okay, we got our channels all cleaned up, a thin layer. And while that kind of sits up for a second, I'll wipe our camshafts clean, put the assembly lube that came with them on the camshafts, wiping the lobes, making sure there's nothing foreign on there, the bearing journals. We'll take the supplied Lucas assembly lube. Let's see if this is any different in color. Blue, it's blue, oh my God. And we're just putting this stuff on the lobes because this is meant for, I'm sure it's fine for bearings as well, but really it's meant for lifters and camshaft lubes. I want to make sure we have enough for the other cams, or cam. We'll smear that stuff on there. It'll help our camshafts live during the break-in process. Make sure our engine's on top dead center before we go installing these camshafts. Perfect. We'll steal some of this blue lube from the cams and we'll just put it on the inside of these seals. Go in here, a little bit here. Slide those in place. And with these seals, you just want to make sure that this part's facing inside. Everything's all still nice and degreased. We'll just go ahead and toss this on so we can seal it up because we'll have to let this sit for about an hour before we fully torque this down. We'll zip them all down. All right, it's been a good hour. Now it's time to go ahead and torque down these main caps. We'll torque them all to spec. I've got my timing tool in place. With these ARP bolts, it was near impossible to get a wrench in here because these studs are thicker. So I used this guy and I improvised a little bit. And just kind of rotated the camshafts. This is just an aluminum piece, but I'm able to slide this in there nice and perfect so it's nice and horizontal. Now I'm gonna have to go back and clean these. Let's torque the caps down, put our cam gears on. Before we even put our cam gears on, we have to put our little back plate on. There we are, it's this guy here that keeps the dirt out of the seals. So let's go ahead and torque these down and finish this thing up. We're gonna work our way from the center out. So let's start from here towards me, and we're gonna torque it to 6 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna make my way from the center, working my way out. Bit of blue Loctite on these bolts, keep this thing from rattling off. Let that be a lesson to you kids. Put this thing on before your timing tensioner. Well, it looks like we'll make ourselves a trip to AutoZone. Let's try that again. Oh, what do you know? It fits perfectly. All right, I'm gonna zip this in. We'll move on to some other stuff. Zip this on just for now as a placeholder. And we'll lube up this part of the cam gear because this is going to press into our seal here. And we'll get our timing mark, which is going to be facing this way. We'll slide this guy right on in. So we'll line this up with this timing mark here. We'll put this timing mark together. Line these two lines up in there. We're gonna take some new torque to yield bolts. Good old GM fasteners. Toss those in. Well, Houston, we have a problem. I ordered the wrong damn cam gear. So we'll take this out. We'll put our used one on. There was nothing wrong with it. I just wanted to put some fresh units on it. So that's where we're at. Not a big deal. We got our older unit. We'll just lube it up, toss her on instead. Now, we need to do 150 degrees and then 15. Let's get after it. 115 or 150 is quite a bit. these torque to yield bolts. Oh, scary side. All right, it's 150. Zero it out, and then we'll do 15 like the manual says. See if we can't hold this in place. Oh, I felt that stretch. That last 15 did it. Ooh, those bolts are something else. And I get a little iffy, if you know what I mean. I tossed the cam cover on for a second just so I went to AutoZone to see if they had another bolt so I can finish this thing up. I'll just have to order another one. Not a big deal. But we'll finish buttoning things up. I mean, aside from putting on the timing belt, handful of other things, I mean, we're pretty much done. A few plastic pieces. We got our thermostat that will go on the back. But I'll bring you along for the ride for the rest of the way, and it'll be quick. All right, what we can do for the time being is we can toss these cap covers on. These seals for, because these are oil-filled camshafts that for the VVT. So we'll toss these on. The home stretch now. I'm gonna toss it's over here. I'm gonna toss the original intake on for now just to get things started. But the custom intake, I'm working on it. Just hang tight. I'm having to have a couple things more machined, just tweaking things. But while we break the thing in, just to get it up and driving and cruising around, just gonna do that NA to begin with. We'll drive 500 miles, and we're gonna turbocharge the crap out of it. However, let's get this intake on, throttle body on, and I think we're almost finished. I hung the turbo manifold on there with the turbo. I'll show you that here in a second. Let's get this intake hung. All right, we got our intake that we imported. Clean, it's been sitting in the bag ever since. There's this bottom bracket that supports the bottom of this. And we've got a couple little dowel pins that slide into the head here. We'll just slide that thing on in. We'll hook this guy up to here. This is probably one of the issue areas with this particular engine is this stuff can rot. Break, you lose coolant. Not that big of a deal to fix. Just like that, boop, done. Where does this damn thing go? All right, I'm just tossing this on for now. I'm missing a couple bolts just from doing all the manifold building stuff, and this thing's sitting up for a year and a half almost. You know what I mean? We're gonna snap on new. This thing goes like that. This is for the PCV. This is the initial reason for all of my headaches with oil blow by. So we're gonna address that in the future. This is going to be removed. The throttle body will be on the other side, and we'll have this going out to a catch can. Well, that about wraps it up. In the next couple of videos, it'll be in the car and it will be on the road. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of how the engine turned out. Until next time, peace out with your pizza.